Now let us go with the next chapter. In first year you have biomolecules. Biomolecules, in that you studied about proteins, amino acids, carbohydrates, vitamins, minerals and all that you have studied. Continuation of that biomolecules, we have a concept, a small chapter called enzymes. Now let us start with the next chapter, enzymes. Why I say it's a continuation of biomolecules? Because in biomolecules we studied about amino acids and proteins. Now if you look at, generally if you say in terms of enzymes, when amino acids join together, when all amino acids join together, now it forms a primary structure. It forms what is called a primary structure. Primary structure of protein. Right. So what is that AA? AA refers to amino acids. AA refers to amino acids. So here when all amino acids join together, it lead to formation of a protein. So in protein also we studied that we have primary proteins, primary structure of protein, even we discussed about a secondary structure of protein and tertiary structure of proteins. Right, if you can remember, recollect before you start this lesson to here, once you give a quick reading on biomolecules. So in biomolecules we studied primary structure of protein. What is primary structure of protein? A linear chain of arrangement of amino acids. Polypeptide chain of amino acids. Why? Because all amino acids are joined by here a peptide bond. This is peptide bond. Poly, many amino acids join together and form the structure called as what? Proteins. Now here we say most of the enzymes are proteins. Most of, or we can say all that enzymes, most of the enzymes are proteins. But all proteins are not enzymes. Most of the enzymes are proteins, but all proteins are not enzymes. Sometimes may have chance of getting the statement all enzymes, even this is also correct. All enzymes are proteins, but all proteins are not enzymes. Okay, see why this is the statement? Why? Because here if you look at primary structure, you know, and when secondary structure, you know, right handed helically coiled one is secondary structure. Right, coming to tertiary structure, you know that crisscross arrangement one above the other like this. Cotton woolen ball like structure of folding of protein which lie one above the other. This is nothing but what we call tertiary structure. Yes or no? It is called tertiary structure. So here mostly tertiary structure of the proteins act as enzymes. Most of the cases tertiary structure of protein act as enzymes. Okay. Now does you think all the time proteins only will act as enzymes? No, there are some exceptional cases. I am giving as very important note point. So here in some cases nucleic acid also act as enzymes. Nucleic acid also act as enzyme. Which nucleic acid? 23S rRNA. rRNA is a nucleic acid. Okay, this is called ribonuclease. This is called ribonuclease. 23S rRNA, which is also called ribonuclease. This ribonuclease act as enzyme in one of the metabolism. in most of the metabolism, especially one of the metabolism, only enzyme which plays a vital role is RNA. RNA is a nucleic acid, because you know nucleic acids are two, DNA, RNA. Which RNA act as enzyme? Nucleic acid here, it act as enzyme. Nucleic acid act as enzyme. Which nucleic acid act as enzyme? RNA. Which RNA that one? 23S rRNA. S is nothing but sedimentation coefficient. R means ribosomal RNA. I repeat again, 23S. S is nothing but sedimentation coefficient. R is ribosomal RNA, and this rRNA is called ribonuclease. Itself is called ribonuclease. Ribonuclease act as an enzyme in one of the metabolism. What is that? Don't worry, in what metabolism and all that you may get a question in your little mind. Don't worry, this metabolism we will study in molecular biology. Why I mean to tell all these things? I want to give you the conclusion that all chapters are interrelated. What you study in one of the chapter, for that application will be in some other chapter. For that example will be in some other chapters. All chapters are interrelated. Right. Now, if you take the enzymes here, generally we find what is called tertiary structure. Tertiary structure contain crisscross, cotton woolen ball like structure will be the tertiary structure that lies one above the other. So, when it lies one above the other, here it forms a continuous chain. A large number of amino acids are joined together, form the protein. Protein, when it forms crisscrosses here and there, you find some spaces. And these spaces are called crevices or pocket, or itself is called active site. This itself is called active site. Here and there you find some crevices. Crevices means invaginations, enfoldings, into which this is a place where substrate will come and bound. This is a place where substrate will come and bound. This is a substrate. Substrate will come and bound here. Here also substrate will come and bound here. So, for enzyme, here if you look at, this is an enzyme. Enzyme combines with substrate, lead to enzyme substrate complex. So, when you write this reaction, where the substrate will combine with enzyme, where the substrate will come with the enzyme. If you look at the structure of this, the structure of the protein, here and there you find invaginations are called enfoldings. These invaginations are called cleft, invagination, enfolding, that is called active site. This is the site active for combining with substrate. Substrate will come and bound with active site. Now, as a result, what you get is enzyme substrate complex. Right. So, here generally if you look at, again I will draw this diagram later. So, this is if you think enzyme, maybe you can take a graph, this is active site on which substrate will come and bound and lead to formation of enzyme substrate complex. We will come back to this point later again, and let us continue with the introduction about the enzymes here. Now, if you look at in generally, you know that enzyme act as catalyst. Generally enzymes act as what? Catalyst. Now, here if you look at, let us have the comparison. So, in industries most commonly used one are enzymes and even inorganic catalyst. Enzymes and inorganic catalyst. So, nowadays most commonly we are using the catalyst. Most of the catalysts are enzymes and some of the catalysts are inorganic in nature. Let us make clear difference between enzymes and inorganic catalyst. So, if you look at inorganic catalyst, of course they are costly in nature, but the important advantage of using inorganic catalyst when compared with the enzymes, these inorganic catalysts they resist high temperature and high pressure high pressure as well as high pH. Okay, these inorganic catalysts, they will not get damaged, they are efficient. So you can write they are efficient even at, I hope you understood the point here. These inorganic catalysts, they resist high temperature, high pressure, high pH, even you apply higher most temperature, but still they convert substrate into product. That means they are efficient even at higher temperature. Whereas coming to enzymes, the drawback of these enzymes is enzymes gets damaged. Enzymes gets damaged at high temperature and pressure. At high temperature, at high pressure and even at high pH. So these enzymes are not functional. Enzymes are not functional at these conditions. Okay, enzymes will get damaged if the temperature rises beyond the optimum level, pressure is high, pH is high, then enzymes will become non-functional. Then does you think all enzymes are same, they get deactivated when temperature is high? No, there are some exceptional cases. What is that exceptional case? You know that in some cases, you can take this as a note point, in some cases the organisms are called thermophilic organisms. The organisms are called thermophilic organism. These organisms, they resist high temperatures. They resist high temperatures. High temperature means up to what extent? Up to 80 to 90 degrees, especially found in case of hot vents and sulfur springs. Hot vents and sulfur springs. So in hot vents and in sulfur springs, you find sulfur bacteria, iron bacteria and some of the Archaebacteria. Those have wonderful ability to tolerate higher most temperature of 80 degrees and 90 degrees, and such type of they resist because of presence of enzymes, and that enzymes are called thermostable enzymes. And such enzymes are called as what? Thermostable enzymes. Guys, in biotechnology, we will get one of the example, DNA polymerase. I repeat again, DNA polymerase. That example we will get it in biotechnology chapter. At that time you will understand DNA polymerase enzyme has wonderful ability to tolerate, resist higher most temperature of 80 degrees to 90 degrees. That is why such type of enzymes are called thermostable enzymes. When the enzymes are present, such type of organisms are called thermophilic organisms. Okay, generally these temperatures, generally enzymes withstand what temperature means, generally enzymes can resist up to 40 to 50 degrees, or you can take 30 to 40 degrees. Normally enzymes can resist up to 30 to 40 degrees. When temperature is beyond 40 degrees, then enzymes will get damaged. But there are some enzymes which can resist higher most temperature of 80 to 90 degrees. They are called thermostable enzymes. Right. Now, so here if you look at this part, then let us continue further. Now, in generally, you know about the process, or in generally the reactions we classify into two categories. This part is quite simple part, you already have studied in physics and chemistry, you know very well. Now, if you take this, may be a processes may be classified as a physical process, or a physical reaction, and other one is maybe a chemical process or a chemical reaction, maybe a physical process or other one is a chemical process. Now if you take the physical process, here we say a change in shape without breaking bonds, a change in shape without breaking bonds itself, it's called as physical process. There is no breaking of bonds, physically the substance is keep getting altered, it's called physical process. So here the physical process can also be simply said as change in a state of matter. Simply we can say a change in state of matter. Quite a good simple example, since from lower classes we know that there may be conversion of substance from one stage to other stage, from one matter to other matter. For example, if you take simple example most commonly known in lower classes you studied, like ice melts and forms water and water becomes vapor. So it's clearly it is understood that it is a change in state of matter, solid to liquid, liquid to gaseous. So there is no breaking of bonds. Since from lower classes you know this is called a simple physical process. Coming to chemical process or chemical reaction, in physics and chemistry you know all these basics. Now coming to this, there is a breaking of bonds, existing bonds get broken and a new bonds, there will be a formation of a new bonds. When there is a formation of new bonds is there is a complete change in the substance from one form to other form, and that occurs by the process called as transformation, and that occurs by the process called as transformation. Now if you look at in this case, existing substance in its original state, it get modified, altered and lead to formation of something new that will not be the same as that of the original one. So during transformation, its existing bonds are being broken and new bonds are produced, that itself we call it as what? A chemical process. Now take the chemical process or chemical reactions, guys, we know very well. So therefore they divide into two categories. We say inorganic reactions and organic reactions. So we are just discussing about the basic part. So we have two characters, organic and inorganic. So here if you take the inorganic parts, simply you know inorganic components, they combine, join together, lead to the formation of the compounds. For example, barium hydroxide and reacting with a sulfuric acid, that leads to formation of barium sulfate and along with that formation of water. So you know the simple inorganic reaction. So here existing bonds between barium and hydroxide are get broken down, and sulfuric acid bonds are what are existing are getting broken down. As a result here barium going and combining with the sulfate, there is a formation of the new bond between barium and sulfate. So there is a formation of what is called barium sulfate. Coming to organic reaction, here we say hydrolysis of starch into glucose. So you know that starch is a disaccharide. A previous NEET question, you know that non-reducing sugar. Guys, if you remember in biomolecules I told you very clearly starch is a very important example, because quite a number of times the question repeated on starch. What is that question? Did you remember in first year biomolecules chapter we discussed? What is the question? Which of the following is non-reducing sugar? Starch is a non-reducing sugar. Rest all examples given are reducing sugars. This is a non-reducing sugar. Now hydrolysis of the starch here, it leads to formation of what is called as glucose. So when there is a hydrolysis of starch into glucose, generally it happens in living organisms, and that is what we call it as what? Organic reaction. Generally if you look at the organic reaction here, substrates are keep getting converted from one form to other form. So here what's happening here? The enzyme is combining with substrate, substrate is keep getting altered and finally producing what is called as the product. When it keep getting and converting from one form to other form, you know, that is what we call generally as metabolism, or we simply call metabolic pathways. The organic compounds, what not, sucrose, starch, lactose, maltose, they keep getting broken down, lead to formation of the new molecules. Again, new molecules will join together, lead to formation of the complex molecules. They keep convert from one form to other form. They are called as metabolism, or simply we call metabolic pathways. So, in metabolic pathways, does you think one compound will undergo only one metabolic pathway? No. One compound may undergo many different metabolic pathways. For example, let us continue with the organic reaction example. What is the example? Hydrolysis of starch into glucose. So, here when you talk about the glucose, no doubt in plant what is produced is called the storehouse of energy. One more question we have. The storehouse of energy in plants is starch. Guys, I kept 3 star marks and asked you about 2 questions. Very important, most repeated questions in the previous NEET entrance exam. Guys, 3 star marks I kept, that means starch is very important example for all of you to remember. Compulsory we may have chance of a question on starch, right. So, if you take the glucose, does you think that glucose it may continuously undergo aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration? In general what happens? Glucose may undergo aerobic respiration. As a result of aerobic respiration, it produces what? Pyruvic acid. Glucose undergoes aerobic respiration and produces what? Pyruvic acid. General mechanism in case of animals, human beings, in higher organisms. The same glucose in some other organisms, it may undergo what is called as anaerobic respiration. For example, if you talk in terms of anaerobic respiration, let me tell human beings. In human beings, glucose converts into what? Pyruvic acid in all cases. But what happens? For example, if you take in our skeletal muscle system, especially during exercises, imagine when people does exercise, during exercises, instead of producing pyruvic acid, there is a production of what is called as lactic acid. See, the same glucose, it undergoes aerobic respiration, produces what? Pyruvic acid in human beings. In the same human beings, in skeletal muscle system, in the same human beings, in animals, and due to tight compact arrangement of the tissues, innermost tissues may not get sufficient amount of oxygen. As a result, in human beings there may be chance of undergoing anaerobic respiration, especially while performing exercises, there may be production of what is called lactic acid. Here glucose is converting into pyruvic acid, here glucose is converting into lactic acid. Yes or no? If you take in lower organisms like yeast, in lower organisms like yeast also undergo anaerobic respiration. As a result of anaerobic respiration, what is produced is called ethanol, or we say ethyl alcohol. Ethanol, or what is produced is called ethyl alcohol. So, here what is happening? Glucose is produced with ethyl alcohol. So, that means here glucose is converting into pyruvic acid, means here nearly 10 steps are there. 10 steps are there, 10 reactions are there. Now, in every step of reaction is catalyzed by a different enzyme. That means here 10 steps are there is involvement of 10 different enzymes. Even though the component is same, the component may undergo a multiple steps. In different conditions, the substrate can convert into different product by different enzymes. That means one enzyme, one substrate, one product may not happen all the time in the metabolism. One substrate can convert into different products in different conditions by the help of different enzymes. That is why these all are called as what? Metabolic pathways. These all are called as what? Metabolic pathways. Again I repeat, a different same enzyme, same substrate, same component may undergo different products, different chemical reactions, and different enzymes may be there, and finally lead to formation of different type of products. So metabolic pathways includes a combination of different enzymes. Right. Now then coming to again chemical reactions, this chemical reactions, if you talk, we categorized into two categories. Inorganic reactions, simply inorganic elements join together and form the component. Organic reactions, in organic reactions there may be involvement of different metabolic pathways which occur with a different type of enzymes. Now let us continue further. Now these chemical reactions, what did we study now? Divide into organic reactions, inorganic reactions, right? Now these chemical reactions can be also classified into two categories. Let us take uncatalyzed reaction, uncatalyzed chemical reactions, and then catalyzed chemical reactions. Catalyzed chemical reactions. So here if you look at uncatalyzed chemical reactions and catalyzed chemical reactions. For example, let us talk about a general simple example. Carbon dioxide is combining with water and lead to formation of carbonic acid, bicarbonic acid. Right, we have simply taken example, carbon dioxide combined with water lead to formation of bicarbonic acid. Bicarbonic acid. You know this is very common example. But here if you observe in this reaction, we have written reversible aroma like this. That means it is interconvertible. Now when do you say the chemical reaction as uncatalyzed and when you say the reaction as catalyzed, you know very well the difference, but here I am trying to give you the importance of enzyme by differentiating these two chemical reactions, right. So uncatalyzed reaction, let us take that the carbon dioxide is converting into water, bicarbonic acid in the absence of enzyme, in the absence of catalyst. When it is happening in the absence of catalyst or enzyme, then only it is called as what? Uncatalyzed reaction. That means substrate is converting into product without involvement of enzyme. Substrate is converting into product without catalyst, without enzyme participation. That is why it is called uncatalyzed chemical reaction. That means this reaction is taking place in the absence of enzyme or catalyst. So here in this case what happens here, if you look at the product, these are the substrates, if you look at the product, there may be formation of 200 molecules of bicarbonic acid for duration of 1 hour. That means when the reaction is taking place without participation of the enzyme, product is produced. What is that? Carbonic acid, but you need to wait for 1 hour to get minimum number of carbonic acid, means hardly 200 molecules of carbonic acid is produced if you wait for 1 hour. So, very less product we are getting because no enzyme participation nor no catalyst. So, it is called compared with catalyzed chemical reactions. Now, if you take in this case enzyme is involved, combined with substrate, lead to the formation of the product. That means same I am writing carbon dioxide plus water. Now, in the cytoplasm, there is a participation of the enzyme. What is that enzyme? Carbonic anhydrase. What is the enzyme? Carbonic anhydrase. As a result of this, you can see formation of bicarbonic acid. What is the enzyme involved here? Carbonic anhydrase. Within the cell, carbon dioxide combines with water, but this reaction is making use of an enzyme from the cytoplasm. What is that enzyme? Carbonic anhydrase. This is an enzyme used from the cytoplasm and produce the product bicarbonate. Here also carbon dioxide combining in water in the cell, but no use of enzyme, produced only 200 molecules per 1 hour. But here with the help of this enzyme, it produced nearly 6 lakhs molecules are produced. 6 lakhs molecules are produced per second. Just look at the scenario. Guys, you well know about uncatalyzed and catalyzed. Here we are just trying to talk in terms of enzyme. See the importance of enzyme, and there is no enzyme, hardly it is a matter of 200 molecules per 1 hour is produced. With the help of enzymes, it is 6 lakhs molecules of carbonic acid or bicarbonate or product is produced within fraction of seconds. In fraction of seconds, there is a formation of 6 lakhs molecules. That means the efficiency of enzyme is 10 million times greater. Efficiency of enzyme is 10 million times greater. 10 million times it is greater. Very important. That means we say the use of enzymes is incredible indeed. Very important. The use of enzymes is incredible indeed. Just look at the scenario here. Only 200 molecules, no enzyme, that you have to wait for 1 hour. Industrially, look at the product, how much you get it. Within fraction of seconds, you will get 6 lakhs molecules are continuously produced. So, the efficiency of enzyme is 10 million times greater when compared with the uncatalyzed reactions. See the significance or importance of enzymes. Enzymes are incredible indeed. Incredible means what? You can't define the credit of an enzyme. See, if I do the little work, I say, I have done this much of work, so I get the credit, right? That credit can be defined in terms of work. This is a work is done, little work is done, so I get little credit, right? If I done more work, more credit. But here, incredible. What is the meaning of incredible? You cannot define the credit of an enzyme. You cannot say what might be the efficiency of an enzyme. It's beyond your imagination, beyond our expectation. So the credit cannot be defined. How much work it is doing enzyme, you cannot measure it. You cannot define it. It's called incredible. It's called incredible indeed. Need is the one requirement. Requirement, it's called need. When it is giving you advantage beyond the need, కావాల్సిన దానికన్నా ఇంకా ఎక్కువ molecules in fraction of seconds, more molecules can be produced, means it's a most wonderful thing. It's called indeed. Beyond the limit it will give the product. So it's called, enzymes are referred as incredible indeed. That's why we are discussing the chapter called enzymes. Right. Now look at generally if you look at here, generally if you talk about rate of a physical or chemical process rate of physical or chemical process can be defined as amount of product produced per unit time. This we know. In physics and chemistry, you know, this is the basic thing most commonly you study, right? So when you talk in terms of rate of reaction, it can be defined as epsilon P by epsilon T. P is nothing but the product, T is nothing but the time, right? So here how much physical process is completed means we look for how much product is produced in a particular duration of time. How much chemical reaction is completed means that always depends upon the product per unit time. We call that is nothing but rate. Rate can be studied as epsilon product by epsilon time, product per unit time. So when direction is specified, this is itself is called as velocity. Rate of reaction when direction is mentioned itself is referred as what? Velocity. Now if you look at the rate, I am writing here, the rate of reaction depends on several factors, depends on many factors. What are the different factors? Like temperature, pressure, pH and other factors. Generally the rate of reaction, it always affected by many different factors. It is highly influenced by surrounding factors, for example like temperature, pressure and pH. For example, if you take, in this case we are talking about enzymes. So enzymes efficiency, it may be doubles or becomes half or reduces to half for every 10 degrees centigrade rise of temperature. What's the meaning of this? Here I am saying that enzymes efficiency doubles or reduces to half for every 10 degrees rise of temperature. That means what here? If the temperature is increased up to 10 degrees centigrade, then rate of reaction maybe it will become double or it may become reduced to half. Means rate of reaction may become double or rate of reaction may reduce it to half. That means temperature, for every rise of the temperature, for every rise of 10 degrees centigrade, there will be impact on efficiency of the enzyme. Enzyme may work and do double the work, so that double the product is produced. So double is the rate of reaction. Or sometimes for if 10 degrees temperature is raised, the same enzyme will slightly decrease its function so that the rate of reaction can become half, right. So this is how temperature is causing impact on enzymes efficiency. Temperature it's one of the factor which causes direct influence on rate of reaction, right. Now let us continue our study with nature of enzymes. Now nature of enzymes means here mainly we are going to discuss about mechanism of enzyme action. Mechanism of enzyme action. That means every enzyme is involved in conversion of substrate into product. So here we are going to discuss that substrate is the one adding to the enzyme lead to formation of what is called product. Sir. Sir. Sir, sir. Sir.